2, 1.
Good morning, students. Today we're going to be learning how to use the Pythagorean Theorem. So if you look here, I have it shown a simple right triangle, and this is a right triangle that is very common for Pythagorean Theorem presentations because it is nicely done and it has all whole numbers. So this is what we call a Pythagorean triple if all three of the numbers are whole numbers. So to start, we're going to go over the equation that comes with the Pythagorean theorem. And that is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So our a squared and our b squared represent our legs of our triangle, which are the shorter sides. So that's this side from A to C and this side from A to B. So our hypotenuse is this one from C to B. So our C to B is going to be represented by our C value. So if we look here, if we were to insert our numbers into our equation, we would have 4 squared plus 3 squared equals 5 squared. So if you want, we're going to just go over that and we're going to make sure that's correct. So 3 squared we know is 9 and 4 squared is 16. So if we were to add those together, we would do 9 plus 16. If you do that on your calculator or in your head, you would get 25. And we know that the square root of 25 is 5. So it is indeed a Pythagorean triple. Now, if we come over, right over here, I've made a larger triangle for us to look at. So if we look here, we see that we have another triangle, but now we're going to have to start finding our values. So we have our legs. We see that we have a 5 for a leg and we have 12 for a leg. So those are our A and B's. And then we have our equation. But we don't know our C value. So we're going to figure that out. So to start, we're going to find 5 squared and 12 squared. Now to find 5 squared, we know that from our heads. Hopefully we've had that memorized for a while. 5 squared is 25, and 12 squared, we should also know, is 144. So if we were to add those on our calculator, we would get 5 squared plus 12 squared, or 25 plus 144, and we would get 169. And if we were to square root that, or just because we've already memorized, we would have that our C value is 13. So if we were to write this out, it would look like this. So we have our 5 squared plus our 12 squared, which is our C squared, and 25 plus 144, which equals C squared, and 169 equals our C squared. And then we would end up with the square root of 169 equals 13, which equals our C. So this is how you would do that. If you're missing your C value, it's a simple plug in the values that you have into the equation and then solve it through. The trickiest part is remembering to square root for the C. Now we're going to move on to another triangle. This one's quite large, so we're going to zoom out a little. Okay, so it's similar to the other one. We're missing our b value. It's not listed down here. So we're going to plug in our values. So we see that our a value down here is 8 and our c value is 17. So we're going to do the same thing as before. We're going to go through and do the equation. So we know that our 8 is A and our 17 is C. So we're going to plug those in. And this time I'm going to help you guys write it out as we go. So we're going to go and look. And so we're going to have our a squared. So we're going to do 8 squared plus b squared because we don't know what b is. And we're going to set that equal to our 17 squared because that's our c value. So that's our new equation right here. So that's what we're going to be working with. So we're going to go through and solve as much as we can. So we can solve our 8 squared and our 17 squared. So we can simplify those to being whole numbers rather than exponentials. So we know 8 squared is 64 because we've learned that in elementary school. So we have our 64 plus our b squared, which equals 17 squared. And I don't think you guys would have that memorized, but if you do, that's awesome. But if we put it into our calculators, we can find that it's 289. And now our equation is ready to be solved for b squared, and it just becomes a simple two-step process of solving an equation. So we're going to do the algebra and find that 289 minus 64 that is equal to our b squared. So I'm going to write in our b squared is equal to that, just so it makes a little bit of sense. So we're subtracting our 64 from both sides. So 289 minus 64 equals 225. I'm going to write that in as well, because then I know that b squared is equal to 225 as well. And it just saves me another line of typing. And then, so since we know that b squared is equal to 225, we just take the square root of the 225 to find our b value. So we're just going to take the square root of 225. And that, oh, I forgot to put the b. So make sure you put your variables so we know what the value is representing. And so we have b equals the square root of 25. And I'm just going to stick in there. And then b equals 15, which is a common enough square root that you should all know. So that is all for the lesson today. So make sure that you guys are familiar with this, with the Pythagorean theorem, because we're going to be using